welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit the like button, subscribe, join our transfer notification negotiation group chat. All links are in the description below, plus our social accounts. Go and follow them. I know a lot of you have been following our journey out in Germany over the Euros. KJ and the boys over there are doing a fantastic job. I joined them in a few days, which I'm very excited about. And go follow our Instagram, go follow our TikTok, go follow our Twitter accounts and see all that content. Lots to talk about in the transfer market today. Some updates from Fabrizio Romano, some big updates on Manchester United, and updates regarding Tottenham and Archie Gray as well. And I want to start actually with Manchester United. And Ryan Taylor here stating that Manchester United have stepped up talks for De Ligt, Joshua Zirkzee, and Manuel Ugarte. Talks are progressing between United and De Ligt's entourage, while the clubs have also had further contact over deals with Zirkzee and Ugarte in the past 48 hours. And I do want to stress that it has also been stated by a number of other journalists and sources that the De Ligt deal is not instead of Brentford. They are both in isolation of each other and both could potentially happen this summer. But the three main deals Man United are working on is Zirkzee, Ugarte, and De Ligt. My personal feeling is I'm quite excited about Ugarte. I like him as a player. Zirkzee, again, excited about him. I don't see any of them as potential world-class players, but I see them as good to very good as they reach their peak. De Ligt, I've always been a fan. I've always liked him, but I completely and utterly understand. I've said it on many other shows. The concern people have, he's gone to Juve, he's gone to Bayern Munich. Neither club wanted to keep him. Why are we looking to invest? I think it's a really strong argument and case. But as I've said all along, I'm going to remain as objective as possible when it comes to the direction that Man United are going under Ineos. I'm going to give them time to... People like to use the cooking terminology. Well, we're not even at the cooking stage yet. We're kind of in the prep. I'm not going to start going crazy until I see the cooking starting and we've tasted a few dishes. We've seen some of the fruits of their labour. Potentially, and I'll give you one argument I saw on Twitter as to why De Ligt could work. Maybe, just maybe, he's gone to two clubs where the style of football doesn't suit him best. And Manchester United, if you look at the coaches that we're hiring and the direction that Ineos seemingly want to go, maybe the sporting directors, the Wilcotts of this world and the scouts believe that he is going to be a really good complement to the way in which we are going to play football. We kind of all have this argument all the time that a lot of players in the modern game are kind of system-based players. I believe that's always been the case. I don't think it is a modern-day phenomenon. But look, I want to get your views and opinions. It does feel like these deals have a very good chance of happening. So Man United fans, I want your thoughts, I want your feelings in the comment section below. Now, Fabrizio Romano has come out and put an update today out that conversations are still ongoing for Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Chelsea are still trying to find a way. The player has delayed his holiday and is waiting. Chelsea want to include players still and want the right deal structure. And sort of player swap deals do appear to be really, really popular at the moment. Now, what you'll probably find if there is a player involved is that the journalists will push this notion of they are separate transactions. And whether you've got PSR problems or not, it's important from a business perspective for the transactions to seem separate. Remember, players that you sell show up on your ledger as the money instantly arriving. Players you buy, you can amortize over generally the length of their contract, which means if you buy a player for £50 million on a 5-year contract, year one, and it may break down slightly differently, but in layman terms, you pay £10 million. It's £10 million cost year one on the transfer fee. Or if you sell a player for £50 million, it's £50 million into your turnover, which of course helps with your bottom line. So I understand why clubs do this, and they'll probably push it, but essentially they're looking to do a player plus cash deal. And look, I've said it already, I think Dewsbury-Hall is going to be a good player. Chelsea fans that are excited about this prospect, it's moving in the right direction. Things are a little slow at the minute with all the international tournaments being on and the window kind of being slightly delayed because it might not be your deal. that's got a direct problem, but it's like buying a house. There's a chain here, and the replacements may be away and can't get out for medicals and want to have different conversations, but are away at Copa America or away at the Euros at this particular juncture, or on holiday. And sometimes footballers say, look, I'm having my holiday with my family. When I come back, we're going to discuss this. So I don't think there's any room, there should be any reason for Chelsea fans or fans of other clubs really to be panicking at this juncture. Now, I want to move on to Arsenal because Fabrizio has also put out another update via our friends at Give Me Sport and stated that for Calafiori, Arsenal made an inquiry to understand the situation of the player. Because, I mean, it's also normal when you are looking at for a left-footed player, a left-footed defender. Calafiori is one of the best available right now on the market. Arsenal have been showing their interest in the situation, but at the moment, it's not a negotiation. There is no bid. There is no contact with Bologna. So it's just an inquiry to understand the situation. The only element of this from Fabrizio that I don't understand is how can you make an inquiry? How can you make an inquiry but equally have no contact? That's the only element, and that's not a dig. It's just I read it and thought, well, if I make an inquiry, that is contact, surely. And also with Fabrizio, again, this is no issue, but it's understand the language. Fabrizio doesn't consider it a bid until it's the official bid. My feeling is when you inquire about, I mean, they may not have put even an unofficial bid in right now, but they are looking at him. It is a deal that Arsenal are active in. I find it really interesting around Calafiori. I wasn't overly familiar with him before this tournament, and that's normal. And I feel that some football fans online, other than Strasbourg Steve, I don't believe most of them that they watch multiple leagues and have an understanding of all the different players. I just don't believe most of them. Typically, the young players everybody's heard of is if they're really good on the computer game, and they pretend it's because they've watched them play football, if I'm being honest. I've been really impressed with him at the Euros. However, I won't write a player off because of an international tournament, and I won't overhype a player because of an international tournament. Players like Karen Poborski and Diouf and others spring to mind when it comes to that. But when you do your research on Calafiori, whether it's watching, and I've had a few people in our members chat say, "Oh, people are having a pop at me for using Y-Scout." Y-Scout is one of the best ways to assess a football player. Yes, there's lots of short clips on there, but when I haven't used it for a while to be fair, but when I last used it, you have about 5+ years of data, and essentially every single attribute of a player, there is countless clips to demonstrate. So if you want to know what their forward passing looks like, or their passes into the final third looks like, or how they control a ball when in the final third versus how they control a ball when they're in their own half. Equally, you can change it to when their team's leading, when their team's losing, when the player's on a yellow card. You can change the minutes of a game. What are they like in the first 45 minutes, the last 45? You can look at what a player is like in the last 10 minutes of a game if they're losing versus the last 10 minutes of a game if they're winning. So you can get really specific and look at their passing, their control, how they utilize space, their marking, etc. It's an amazing, it's expensive, but it's an amazing application to really kind of scout a player outside of just watching them in a game. You can get really specific with it. And a lot of people have done that with Calafiori. I've read a number of things about him, and he's really highly tipped in Italy. But he's almost become a bit of a punching bag for sort of the anti-hipster squad online, if that makes sense. And I don't really understand why. And maybe it's because there's a link to Arsenal, and we know how much Arsenal hate there is on the internet. There'll be some in this comment just because we've mentioned Arsenal. But I think it's a really important transfer to kind of speak about. But look, Calafiori to Arsenal, I've said it all along, and I'll say it again, I don't think this is a deal that will happen. These very rarely do the top Italians leave Italy. Similarly, how often do you see the top Spanish leave Spain? How often do you see the top English leave England? There are examples, of course, but the vast majority stay in their homeland, unless I'm mistaken. Sticking with Arsenal, this story again coming out of Italy, and I still want to understand why the Italian press are pushing this far more than anywhere else. And some of you are going to say, Terry, it's for clicks. I don't think it is. because these are translated articles. They're not publishing this in English. They're not pushing it out to the English market. So I'm intrigued by it. But it states that Napoli are prepared to lower their demands for Victor Osimhen in a bid to essentially force an exit from the club. Arsenal, along with PSG and Man United, have been strongly linked with the Nigerian striker, who has a £109 million release clause in his contract. But a lack of buyers for Osimhen at that price is leading to the president considering a new approach for the player. Antonio Conte has long expected to have to prepare for a new campaign without Osimhen, and is likely to persist presence at the upcoming start of pre-season training is seen as a blow. That element I don't think Arsenal fans or Premier League fans really care about. But it isn't going away, this story, and I really do think it's one to keep an eye on. I don't expect to see any of the quote-unquote tier ones in the UK talk about this with any vim until it's much further along in the process, if indeed it happens. Remember, the Italian press who are publishing this have no desire to be seen as credible by Arsenal fans or by Premier League fans. They are just printing stories that they are being told by people close to Napoli. And I think they just don't care whether it comes to fruition or not. They don't care whether it breaks down. They don't care where it completes. But I think some of the transfer specialist journalists, they're like, I'm not going to report on that yet because I want to make sure it happens. If I say that talks are happening and then it falls away, I get shit for it. It's mad what we as football fans have done to transfer rumours, where journalists don't even want to mention the talks are happening in case it doesn't happen and they get blamed. Listen, Arsenal fans, still involved in conversations according to the Italian press. Give us your thoughts and feelings. Now, this is an interesting story I read today, that Spurs could hijack the Archie Gray deal. Now, we know that Brentford it said that they agreed a deal of $35 million to sign the Leeds midfielder. But there is a report that this bid has been rejected. This was also coupled with the brilliant Ben Jacobs stating that Spurs could yet hijack the move with their own bid. We know that Chelsea have been interested. This story also says Liverpool are interested in Archie Gray. Now, I've only watched him play 4 or 5 times. Every now and then, I'll have a championship game on while I'm working. Really impressed with him. There's a proper player in there. Still raw, still young, so much to learn and so much to be nurtured. And I do feel a move to a team like Brentford would be perfect for him. Maybe Spurs, because I just worry about him going to a Liverpool or a Chelsea in terms of how much game time will he get straight away. I know that I have a general view that if you're good enough, you're going to force your way into the team. But I almost feel that he's at a place in his career where he just needs regular first-team football, and I hope he does go to Brentford. But I've got a feeling about Spurs on this one. He'd be a good player for Spurs. He really would be, and I think he could become a little bit of a hero there. I really think this would be a substantially good piece of business in the short term and potentially a fantastic piece of business in the medium to long term for Spurs. But look, I want to get your thoughts and I want to get your feelings on Archie Gray. Where do you think he'll end up? What do you make of these hijack stories? Leave all your comments below, my wonderful people. We're back later today, of course, with the match reactions to the knockout games at Euro 2024. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you soon. Peace.